I get everyone to have their seats so we can get started? You ready? When Kevin finishes, we'll go ahead and start our meeting. I'd like to call to order the meeting for the 1st of January, for January 8th, our Western Riverside Council of Governments meeting, and we'll do roll call with help from staff on how we're doing it.
You should be able to check in just as you normally have.
What?
Where's my mouse?
That's all right.
I keep telling them they need to get the one that we have. It works.
Sorry, my mouse disappeared.
Okay. So that everybody that doesn't notice already, we do have a new system, and staff will tell us what we're doing as we go.
Okay, so as everybody's checking in, a couple of things. So with this new system, you're going to see two buttons on the countertop. The top one is going to have a gavel, and the bottom one has like a camera. So as we process through the meeting, the top button will allow you to view the plain agenda there on the screen, and the bottom button, if you hit the camera, it will allow you to see the PowerPoint as we're going through the meeting. And then at the end of an item that we have to vote on, once that vote display is shown, then there's going to be about a 4 to 5 second lapse. So you're going to see a black screen. Don't panic. Give it a system a few seconds to catch up, and then you're going to be able to see back at the PowerPoint. And then once it goes back to the PowerPoint, if you want to go back and view just the plain agenda, you just hit that agenda button. So you can toggle back and forth between the agenda and the PowerPoint at any time throughout the meeting.
Are we making that change this meeting where it goes back to the agenda instead?
Say that one more time.
She wasn't here for your last.
He wants it to go back to.
After we vote, there's no reason to go back to the video presentation. It should go back to the agenda. Is that
We
going
can do
to?
it like that if that's your preference. Sir.
Yes.
Was it your clone I was talking to at the last
No,
meeting?
it's because they switch it in the back, so depending on how the clerks want to run the meeting, but if that's how you want to do it.
All the meetings.
Okay.
All the meetings are going to run like that.
We'll do that for every meeting.
Every meeting.
Okay.
There's no point in going back to the video after we vote.
Well, no, it goes back to the PowerPoint that continues to be displayed throughout the meeting.
No, we're only voting on an agenda item. We're not voting on PowerPoints.
Correct.
So when you put up the vote count, that's the video presentation. Then when you remove that, it stays on the video when we want to go back to the agenda.
Okay, and then for those who want to follow along with the PowerPoint, they just have to hit that camera button.
Well, how many times are we going to be voting during during a PowerPoint presentation?
Well, no, you don't vote during the PowerPoint presentation, sir.
So that's my point.
We'll let Patrick know to put
Every
it-
meeting.
So those of you that did not understand it like me, we're just going to go through as whatever we need to do when we need to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will be led by Bonnie from the city of Hemet. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you.
Okay. We are going to skip our espresso presentation. Mr. Rossi could not join us today, so we'll go to public comments. Do we have any public comments?
I have no requests.
Okay. Then our next item is our consent calendar. So do we have anything to be pulled from the consent calendar? If not, then we'll move to voting. Well, we have a motion. Okay, it's been moved by the city of San Jacinto, seconded by the city of Murrieta. Please vote.
I have not logged in Canyon Lake and Europa Valley as they just walked
I
in.
was going to say, where do you vote?
Yeah. When she logs you in,
Oh,
you'll
okay.
show up. And then it's just at the top.
Oh,
Or you get a little star.
And
big
City of
old
Eastville
star.
just walked in also.
it's the new game I've been playing.
And I'm waiting for the back to display the vote.
Oh,
It'll come back.
It'll come back. It'll come back. It'll come back.
Motion passed, 14 yes, 1 no. Next, we have our reports. And the first one is on our PACE program and activity update. Casey?
Wait, I still didn't get to vote.
Vote on that
Oh, you're not
We'd
still?
already started the call for
She's
vote,
working on it.
but the next one, you know.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Happy New Year. Casey Daly, Director of Energy and Environmental Programs at WRCOG, here today to talk about our PACE program update. Just as a reminder, WRCOG's PACE programs provide financing to residential and commercial property owners for the installation of energy-efficient, renewable energy, water conservation, and seismic improvements to their home or business. Financing is then repaid on the property tax bill. Today we have a couple of requested actions, as well as a brief presentation from our partner at Renovate America to talk about an update on its promotional rates and contractor compliance. So just a quick overview. As of December 19th, we've completed just over 82,000 projects throughout the state of California as part of WRCOG's PACE programs. Those improvements have been valued at over $1.7 billion, and solar and HVAC continue to be the most popular improvements. Today's first requested action deals with the addition of 2 new associate members in a WRCOG. This past November, the cities of Milpitas and Truckee passed resolutions to join WRCOG as associate members so they can participate in our California Hero program. Today's requested action item is to accept the 2 new associate members and set a public hearing for February 5th, 2018. Our next item deals with the addition of Greenworks Commercial into WRCOG's PACE program, both at the umbrella level in the subregion and statewide. This past October, the Executive Committee directed staff to enter into contract negotiations and execute the necessary documents so that Greenworks can operate both in WRCOG's umbrella and statewide. Since October, Greenworks and WRCOG, as well as legal counsel, have worked together to update all the required documents to allow for WRCOG to oversee their program. Today's staff is bringing forward resolution number 02-18, which would authorize Greenworks Lending to administer and finance authorized improvements to be installed on commercial properties, as well as approving the associated program reports, handbooks, assessment contracts, and various agreements. And then finally, today, we are joined by representatives from Renovate America, who are here to provide an update on the HERO promotional rates. Last February, the Executive Committee approved the implementation of new promotional rates for the HERO program, and staff was directed to report back with an update on the progress. So joining me today, we have from Renovate America, Victor Villaplana, who is the Vice President of Market Implementation, as well as Mike Anderson, who is the Director of Compliance. So with that, I'd ask them to join me. All right, there you go.
Good afternoon, committee. As Casey mentioned, I'm Victor Villaplana with Renovate America. Wish you a happy new year. As Casey mentioned, early last year in 2017, Renovate America launched what we call our HERO promotional rates, which is an opportunity and a program to allow for homeowners to finance their PACE projects using lower interest rates by having the contractor essentially buy down the rate, akin to perhaps paying points on a mortgage. And we wanted to come back today and provide an update on the progress of that program. As you'll see here, since the program launched, we financed about 6,500 projects in the WRCOG and California Hero programs using these hero promotional rates, which total about $150 million in total financings. This is about half of the total assessments that have been completed in California Hero or WRCOG Hero over that period of time. As you may recall, we have an offering that allows contractors to continue to use the existing hero rates and not have that dealer buy down if they determine that that was a better business option for themselves. Based on the use of these hero promotional rates, homeowners have saved over $60 million over the life of their assessments due to the lower financing costs associated with them. We have about 430 contractors using the hero promotional rates today. That's about a third of our total contractors. Again, the other two-thirds continue to use the existing, what we call hero classic rates, which do not have this buy-down option, as they've determined that it's the better option for their business and how they manage their costs. One key question as we looked for approval last year related to the concern around the fee being passed directly onto homeowners through the contractor, and our compliance department, which Mike is an integral part of, has been actively monitoring that practice and ensuring that it hasn't happened. And so we have a couple of slides worth of data that I'll ask Mike to go through that I think has some really positive data on how that's going. So I'll hand it over to Mike.
Thank you, Victor. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Anderson. I'm Senior Director of Compliance Operations with Renovate America. We administer the HERO program. And the first topic is HERO promotional rates. The level of enforcement that we have on this is such that we monitor the pipeline activity for contractors, throughout the month. We look for any abnormalities in their pricing that would suggest that they're passing on a dealer fee to the consumer. We have found very few of those instances, and in each of those instances, we've been able to clear the file. Of all the files that we've handled, we've cleared each one of those instances as they've arisen. You can see they're in the double digits, and certainly that's a very small percentage of our business. This is a trend line that will show you what we've experienced with HERO promotional rates and monitoring pricing for dealer fees. In the entire time that this has been in the market, we have worked with contractors to reduce prices on 15 projects total, and that's when we found evidence, direct evidence, that they passed a dealer fee on to the consumer, and the remedy for that is to lower the price and remove the dealer fee. Can I answer any questions about this? Okay. My next topic is with respect to our compliance activity at Renovate America as it relates to the HERO program for WRCOG HERO as well as California HERO. You can see our trend line is trending down with less than 1%. When you look at the complaints that we receive from homeowners as compared to applications that we receive each month. And we feel good about that trend line. The primary driver for that is enforcement activity that we have now been engaged in with contractors over the past 13 or 14 months. We've removed over 100 contractors from the program due to issues that we've seen in their customer base. Those were high volume contractors to the program, and they also contributed a high volume of complaints. And so we're pleased with the results. We've taken, a big part of our business out, and that's also reflected in lower complaint rates. So this last slide indicates the duration that complaints are open before they're resolved. Our goal is to close those as quickly as possible because we don't want a homeowner with an issue that's unresolved over a period of time. And so we strive to close those issues within 30 days, and this chart shows you how we're acting on that SLA over the last year. And we had a little bit of an increase in complaints that were closed beyond 30 days into November, and then in December, we were able to get that back on the trend line and make sure that our homeowners have good resolutions quickly to the issues that they bring to us. Now, a lot of this has to do with the nature of the complaints we receive. What we're seeing now are complaints that are generally workmanship issues, so that they're very straightforward. We've implemented a number of measures. Primarily, a year and a half ago, we implemented confirming terms calls with every homeowner. WRCOG has done that as well, and that has contributed to the reduction in complaints and also the speed at which we can resolve these issues, because they're relatively minor issues that we're dealing with at this point. So I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Somebody just pushed their button.
I did. Deborah, it's Mary Ann from Temecula,
Oh,
filling in for Mike Nagar.
okay.
So investigations or trouble checks are complaint driven. That's what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And so you obviously have removed 100 contractors, and that's amazing. So do we feel like nothing's falling through the cracks? No regular spot checks are done or assessments or anything like that, but everything's complaint driven?
We have extensive inline monitoring and testing that we perform also.
Okay.
I mentioned the confirmation of terms phone call that we have with homeowners. That's very helpful.
Yes.
We have a number of inline controls like that, including on the back end when projects are funded. We run an asset verification program where we send third-party inspectors to the property to verify that the assets are actually installed on the property. So what generates our complaint volume is, generally speaking, it's inbound calls from homeowners. But,
Right.
But we do have extensive inline monitoring and testing that we run as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. And I do have a button for Robert Martin. Did you want to speak on anything? We're having technical difficulties over here.
Yeah, I
so-
saw that. No, I was just that I was late, so I wasn't able to vote on that first subject.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And then I think Adam from Eastville? No.
I just
Okay.
have one really quick question.
Yes.
There's too many buttons up here now. Clearly, we haven't gotten enough direction on this. My question is, are there any unresolved complaints, something that has not been met to satisfaction from any of the complaint process and have to escalate to a different venue?
Well, our goal is to resolve complaints, but complaint resolution involves contractors and sometimes homeowners. And we're in a role of mediation in some cases for things that are more complicated than just a common workmanship issue. So we have a legal department in our company that we escalate to if we need to send things like demand letters, for example, things like that. So there are unresolved complaints. The nature of the work we do is such that at any point in time there will be unresolved complaints. Our total open complaints right now is in the 70 range, less than 100, which is really at an all-time low. And so we work at our level. I have a staff of investigators and mediators that work these issues. And then if we need to escalate to legal, we can do that. And that's how we handle it. So some of the things are not quite as straightforward when homeowners and contractors are involved, because these are third parties that we need to get cooperation from, and so sometimes it doesn't happen as quickly as we'd like.
Thank you.
Okay, Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is in regards to cost. You had shown the first slide there. From what we're seeing appear and through various mediums, it seems like costs are rising. Have you looked at that? Are you anticipating that? Do you anticipate that affecting the nature of the work, either from a labor perspective or equipment perspective? There's been several issues out there lately of, labor shortages. Have you seen any of those? Do you anticipate? Are you planning for any of that? Kind of a broad question, but.
Are you asking about the pricing levels that we see on projects that we finance, those costs?
If it would affect those, or just in general, specifically on the labor issue, or cost of materials, things of that nature. Are you anticipating anything affecting the overall business, I guess?
The market that we're in, as far back as 3 years ago, we've heard issues of contractors looking for good labor resources, and so I know that that's getting more headlines in the news now. It's actually been a part of the market now for at least 3 years that I've been involved in it. I haven't seen a price trend, that I can tell you in terms of, just our project values, that it's increasing or decreasing. It seems to be pretty stable. I'm seeing just what comes across my desk or projects. I look at individual projects and things along with the trend lines, but I don't see anything that would be indicating a general increase in pricing in our portfolio.
Thank you.
Okay, Canyon Lake?
Excuse me. Who determines whether this work is satisfactory or not when you get a complaint about workmanship? I mean, you have various industries that you're representing. Do you have somebody, or is this an on-site inspector?
We do business with a third-party inspection service, and their focus is on verifying that the assets are on the property. And that's because of the nature of a program is such that the assets are the collateral for the assessment contract. The homeowner is really the party who indicates whether the workmanship is satisfactory to them. And if there's a dispute between a homeowner and a contractor, we have our own staff that can mediate that and go visit the property and provide assistance to the homeowner if it seems as if their message is not getting across to the contractor. Ultimately, in our program, the homeowner signs off that the project is complete. That's a very important consumer protection that we offer. Contractors don't get paid progress payments. They get paid when the homeowner executes the completion certificate, which signifies that the work is done and it's satisfactory to them.
So if this work has been done in a shoddy manner, are these contractors then permitted to continue working, not on that job, but in your organization, or are they excluded from your program?
So the question you're asking is more kind of a procedural question. We have a robust contractor compliance review procedure that is, it meets every other week. We take candidates that we see from the work that we do into that executive level committee meeting, and we advocate for disciplinary action against the contractor, whether that's to remove them from the program or to put them on a probationary status. We have a very big client development organization as well that works in the field as well as through a call center directly with contractors. And part of that is to engage client development to get closer to the contractor to resolve those issues. But ultimately, if we feel like we can't resolve issues like that with contractors, then we suspend them from the program.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? I have one. Calamesa.
So on a typical PACE project, how many PACE-approved or HERO-approved contractors will bid on that particular project, or is that price already set by some other entity?
Homeowners are in the market for home improvement, and we recommend homeowners get 3 competitive bids. We don't know ultimately how many bids homeowners actually receive from contractors, but as I say, we recommend that homeowners get competitive bids. The homeowner and the contractor jointly agree to the price of the project.
So it's just like a typical contract in anything, if I'm selling a pool or anything else.
Correct. Yes.
And so in this program where you can buy down the interest rate. Is that after it's already been awarded to one, and that's where the contractor comes in and says, hey, look, I got enough money in this to actually buy down the interest rate?
The contractors are in the Hero Promotional Rates program, and that's those are the interest rates that they offer their homeowners. So we allow a contractor to have one set of rates so that we don't have any issues with an offer to a homeowner and a different offer to a different homeowner. So contractors that are in the Hero Promotional Rates, they have a set of rates. The rates are different based on the term of the financing, but if they offer a 10-year term to homeowner A and homeowner B, it'll be the same rate. So there isn't that opportunity for a contractor to introduce a promotional rate, say after the contract signing or something.
But the point I'm making is if you're buying down rates, that costs that contractor money to pay the difference in what's the market rate for the interest rate. Is that true?
That's correct.
So there has to be enough profit in that job for him to pay that difference and still make money.
That's correct. Contractors look at the Hero Promotional Rates and the dealer fee associated with the Hero Promotional Rate as any other overhead expense related to their business.
Okay.
And we offer five different rates plus the non-dealer fee option, so that contractors, based on the way they run their business, we work with some folks who exclusively use Hero and or PACE and have never had to deal with a dealer fee, so they didn't want to use that product, and that's why 2/3 of our contractors aren't using Hero Promotional Rates. We've worked with others, larger contractors typically, who this sort of dealer fee model is very normal to them and typical, and it's already sort of baked into their cost structure. But inside of those rates, we offer some with lower rates that look more like a credit card transaction kind of fee versus some that are higher that might be more attractive to solar contractors, for example, whose customers are very sensitive to interest rates, so they want to get the lowest rate possible, and they'd be interested in paying a higher fee to get there. So we try to give sort of a broad swath of options to contractors so they can determine what works best for their business so they can still make a profit.
Thank you. You just answered my question perfectly. Thanks a lot.
Okay. City of Hammond?
Have there been issues where the contractor has provided a bid, the job has progressed, and a complaint comes through that the contractor stated, well, like we're used to change orders, okay, so that in fact they need to add a little bit additional cost to the project for one reason or another. Have you had complaints in that regard?
The Hero program has a change order option in it. It's assessment contract amendment. And if there is a change in the price of the project, because that happens in construction and home improvement, the homeowner as well as WRCOG executes on that assessment contract amendment. And we also make another phone call to the homeowner to confirm the terms of their now revised financing. So the way that that's set up is it doesn't lend itself to a contractor arbitrarily increasing the price and
or underbidding.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So underbidding, I'm more concerned about.
We don't really see that kind of thing. Assessment contract amendments are really for when the scope of work actually does change. We haven't seen any that have come through that have been communicated as, like a dealer fee increase.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have one question. You mentioned that you have about 70 active complaints. Out of how many active files?
That's from monthly volume.
I don't know, 100,000 some odd assessments.
We bonded 120-some thousand assessments. I don't know if that's...
No, I mean active, because if you're saying you have about 70 that are active, so approximately how many files would be active to know what that ratio is?
Well, I think the complaints can come at any different time. So those could be files that have already been bonded that can complete. So that's why we use application count as just sort of a baseline to look at, because there's probably no denominator that perfectly assigns to the complaint rate. In flight, I don't know. Mike may know better than me. I don't know what our sort of in-flight projects are at any given time. It fluctuates.
I can follow up with you if you'd like.
Yeah, it's going to be in the thousands, but I don't know if it's 10 or 5. But we can certainly get that number for you if you'd like to sort of put a frame of reference around it.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. We do have some recommendations. Do we have a motion? Are these the same? These are different people?
It was a motion by San Jacinto, seconded by Murrieta.
Yes. Okay, please vote. Oh, how come mine didn't show that? Okay, motion passed 17-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't believe Erin is here for the League of Cities. Hopefully everybody will see her tonight at the division dinner. Next, we'll have our carryover revenue proposal for fiscal year 2016-17. Jennifer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy New Year, members of the committee. Jennifer Ward, Director of Government Relations for WRCOG. I'm pleased to bring you this item today, which is a discussion of our carryover revenues from fiscal year 16-17. So by way of background, since launch and success of the HERO program, WRCOG has been experiencing numerous carryover revenues year after year. Just to go back and summarize, in fiscal year 14-15, we carried over about $3.3 million. In fiscal year 15-16, we carried over about $4.3 million. And those allocations, or those carryover revenues, were allocated to a number of different programs, whether it was an existing program to continue its operation, the launch of a new program based on its desire from our member agencies, and various other activities that were budgeted within our agency. Fast forwarding to this past fiscal year, we are, after closing our books and analysis of staff, we are carrying over about $4 million from fiscal year 16-17 to this current fiscal year 17-18. And I'm going to go over a couple recommendations that were already approved by this committee, as well as some recent discussion at our Administration and Finance Committee to allocate those $4 million in carryover. But as a summary, the action today is in regards to the $2.8 million, the $700,000 for continuation of the WRCOG Public Service Fellowship, as well as $500,000 for the continuation of our grant writing assistance program have already been approved. You'll notice on that previous table, which is also on page 961 of your agenda packet, just flip it over and then find my item that way. It's faster. That the Beyond program is not a recommended piece allocation for use of the fiscal year 16-17 program funds, and that is because we are still actively engaged in both round 1 and round 2 Beyond projects. Out of the about $4 million in Beyond funding, we still have about $3 million of those that have not been spent yet on projects. So many jurisdictions are starting to come to completion in their round 1, and we're really excited to see all those successful projects. Later this year, we're going to be rolling out sort of a communications campaign to let you all know what your fellow member agencies use their Beyond funds. We'll be doing videos, we'll be doing fact sheets, putting all of the completed project information on our website. So if you want to perhaps model a future project in your jurisdiction off of what someone else has done, you'll have those tools at your disposal. And then for round 2, which launched just earlier last year, those are really just getting off the ground. In some cases, we are still waiting for many of those projects to be finalized. So in order to allow round 1 and round 2 to sort of catch up in the process, staff is recommending that we continue the program. However, we just start it later this year or early 2019 to allow for that cyclical nature of the program to play out. As I mentioned, this committee has already approved expansion of the fellowship as well as expansion of the grant writing assistance program, both of which we've seen huge success with. We are going to be offering the round 3 fellow applications starting this January. Your city managers and TAC members will receive those surveys to find out whether or not you want an additional fellow. And for the grant writing program, I believe you have a summary on your consent calendar, but we've seen already successful grant applications, some grant funding coming to a couple of our jurisdictions, so we want to be able to continue offering that service. To get to the point of today's item, which is the remaining $2.8 million in fiscal year 16-17 agency carryover revenues. We had this discussion several times at our Administration and Finance Committee already. There was a bunch of different options laying out on the table in terms of new projects to fund, leaving money in a project fund. However, the overwhelming consensus of our Administration and Finance Committee members, as well as discussions from our Technical Advisory Committee, is to continue our agency's practice of building our reserves. So the California State Municipal Finance Officers Organization recommends a best practice of 20% of your operating budget to be placed in reserves. By allocating this $2.8 million into our reserves, that would bring our total reserve balance to about $4.6 million, which comfortably achieves that goal. Included in this recommendation from the Administration and Finance Committee is a sort of set aside for specific PACE program revenue. So if this committee were to support the Administration and Finance's recommendation that we place that $2.8 million into agency reserves, that recommendation comes with the caveat that of those funds, $500,000 would be set aside for a specific PACE program reserve, which is very similar to how we have separate TUMF program reserves currently. The TUMF program, which obviously multi-million-dollar program, has about $3 million in reserves just for the TUMF program should something happen to that program. So following that practice, and just as a good financial prudency, if the HERO program were to, for some reason, disappear immediately, WRCOG would have assessments that going out for many, 5, 10, 20, 25 years, that we would have an obligation to continue serving those assessments. And so by having a designated PACE program reserve and starting to build that up, that is a separate dedication from our general agency reserves, we believe is a good practice. So that is the summary of the Administration and Finance Committee recommendations. I'd be happy to answer any questions or defer to any of our committee members who would like to add anything. If not, I'd be looking for a recommendation.
Do we have a motion?
Temecula moves approval.
Okay, it's been moved by Temecula and seconded by the City of Moreno Valley. Please vote.
Oh.
Morongo Band of Mission Indians, please vote. Thank you, sir.
Motion passed 16-1.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And we do not have our TAC chair here today, so do we have any reports from any of our committee representatives? For SCAG, I would like to report that the offices moved in December. Their phone number and email addresses are the same, but the street address is now 900 Wilshire, Suite 1700. And we don't have been here from AQMD. Brian, did you have a meeting this month? Okay. Our Executive Director?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just three things to report. First, this week, later in the week, is the annual Southern California Energy, Water, and Green Living Summit held out in the Coachella Valley at Agua Caliente Casino Resort and Spa. Bring this to your attention. There's free registration for elected officials. Next is the upcoming 2018 Transportation Summit, which will be held on next week on January 17th. Also free registration for WRCOG member representatives. If you're interested in attending that, please let us know. If you're interested in finding out the agenda of events and panels and panelists, please let us know and we'll get that to you as well. And then lastly, in addition to SCAG, WRCOG has moved into its new offices. We did that kind of over the course of the holidays. We still have a few bugs to work out, but we're for the most part in the groove, and we're pleased to be there. We look forward to having you visit us. And again, we'll continue to hold our executive committee meetings here, but many, if not all of our other committee meetings, we're hopeful, since we have conference room space, we'll be holding them in the new quarter, so you're welcome to attend. We'll probably put together an open house sometime in the near future, and love to have you all there. So it's good to have the space. That concludes my report.
Okay, do we have any items for future agendas? Seeing none, and I know how much everybody enjoyed reading through their 960-plus pages. Staff is going to be working on how we can have some of our follow-up information as a link or an attachment, so you won't have it as part of your actual agenda unless you want to print that too. Any other announcements? Supervisor Washington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. We've been pushing very hard to get rid of the iPads that we had here on the dais. They were put to good use elsewhere in the county, and we replaced the static monitors with the touch screen so that we could incorporate more functions for the meeting right there on one screen. We will work on the issue of trying to bring in the staff reports. That will be a little bit more challenging for the other agencies that meet in this room because the system is built, around the Board of Supervisors agenda system. But we will continue to work on that. I want to thank our staff, county staff, IT staff, board staff that worked tirelessly through the holidays to get this ready for today. But I think you'll find that this system will be much more functional than the previous system that we had, which seemed to never work. But if you have suggestions, we have suggestions at our I can't remember what it is. Suggestions at rivco.org. I'm just kidding. There's no suggestions. Just call my office and we'll get to them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank everyone for joining us today for our first meeting of 2018. Our next meeting is scheduled for February the 5th at 2 o'clock here. And as we adjourn, I'd like everyone to take a moment as we adjourn in the memory of Barry McClellan, who is the brother-in-law of Kelly Ciardo from Murrieta, and he was the former city manager for the city of San Jacinto. Thank you. Our meeting is adjourned.